Hi everyone, welcome back to Storytime with Mandy. It is February, if you can believe it or not, um, and it is Black History Month. In general, I would say Black history is American history. So while we celebrate it specifically this month in February, we're celebrating all year because, like I said, Black history is American history. It's part of all of our history. But I thought I would pick a couple of kind of newer books that we've gotten that I'm really excited about, that kind of, are appropriate for Black History Month. We have some notable Black Americans in these books, and I would love to share them with you. All right, here we go. The first book we're going to read is called Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's Super Soaking Stream of Inventions. This is one of my very favorites because if you've ever played with a super soaker, have you ever even thought about like how that came about? Lonnie Johnson is the engineer who invented the super soaker. It's a lot more complicated than it looks like because, it works with pump action and then the water comes shooting out and you're like, well, how does that work? Because it's just plastic. There's no batteries or like machine that makes it go. It's just like human produced water pressure. It's very interesting. And I love this book because I love any book about like inventions or how stuff's made with diagrams, and this kind of goes into that. Okay. Every day brought a challenge for young Lonnie Johnson, the challenge of finding space for his stuff. Six Johnson kids were squeezed into their parents' small house in Mobile, Alabama. Lonnie would have loved a workshop of his own, but there just wasn't room. There was nowhere to keep his rocket kits, so he was an engineer from day one. It was in his blood. Bamboo shooters, rubber band guns, a rector set, go-kart engine, bolts and screws, and other spare parts his dad let him bring in from the shed, and various other things he'd hauled back from the junkyard. Lonnie loved building and creating. Ideas for inventions just kept on flowing. You like to tinker around? You ever take stuff apart and put it back together? Well, keep doing that. He learned how to make rockets from scratch. Kids at school gathered to watch Lonnie launch them, and he learned how to make rocket fuel. When it caught fire in the kitchen, Lonnie's mom didn't make him stop. She just sent him to work outside. Lonnie wanted to spend his life designing things, building things, and getting them to work. He wanted to be an engineer. However, Lonnie took an exam that said he would not make a very good one. I think we've all taken these quizzes before, and I guess they kind of serve just to squash our dreams, so maybe we shouldn't do them anymore. I don't know. His dream had been challenged. Lonnie was discouraged, but he knew that whoever had graded his test hadn't met Linux. Find out more about that. Inspired by a TV show, Lonnie had built his own robot. He made it out of scrap metal and named it Linux. Compressed air cylinders and valves allowed Linux's body to turn and its arms to move. The switches came from an old broken jukebox. Lonnie used a tape recorder to program Linux. And as a bonus, the reels looked like eyes. Lonnie wanted to enter his creation into a science fair, but he couldn't get the transmitter to work. Without it, Lonnie couldn't send commands to Linux. And he is right, because they do look like eyeballs, which is kind of fun. Science fairs came and went. Lonnie missed one and then another until he got an idea. Now Lonnie may or may not have asked before he borrowed his little sister's walkie-talkie. But it fixed the transmission issue. His school's team took freshly finished Linux to a 1968 science fair at the University of Alabama, where only 5 years earlier, African-American students hadn't even been allowed. Yeah, that would have been just about the time where that wasn't allowed. Having to compete in a place that wasn't very welcoming, now that was a challenge with a capital C. Against other schools from all over the state, Lonnie's team won first place. If you can imagine the kind of tenacity it would take to be essentially a child and, going to places where people are very hateful towards you. It takes a lot of everything. Soon Lonnie left home to go to college at Tuskegee Institute, where he stood out as a self-confident, insightful, and creative thinker. He stood out as a student who asked the right questions, precisely defined problems, and formulated solutions, kind of like using the scientific method. And he stood out as the guy who built his own booming sound system out of cast-off electronics. It even had lights that flashed in sync with the beat. So basically, he's like the guy you want to be at your party. Lonnie sometimes studied right into the middle of his own parties. The extra studying paid off. He became an engineer after graduation, and that took him beyond Alabama, way beyond. So I guess this is a study in balance, because you want to party all night long, but you got to study. So why not both, you know? When NASA was sending an orbiter and probe called Galileo to Jupiter, the space agency needed to ensure a constant supply of power to the orbiter's computer memory. The engineer who had to figure out how to do it all was Lonnie. So he's teaching them how to make sure that the space probe gets power. His challenge was to come up with a lightweight backup system able to keep essential functions going in case the main power was lost. It wasn't easy, it wasn't obvious, but Lonnie found a solution. Some at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory doubted his idea would work, but Lonnie convinced them it would, and he was right. As it photographed Jupiter and its moons, Galileo was supported by the power package that Lonnie designed. Much of what we know about Jupiter could have been at risk in a power failure, if not for Lonnie. It's pretty amazing. Ideas for other problems to solve just kept on flowing. They flowed whether Lonnie was working with hundreds of people at NASA or up late tinkering on his own inventions. Finally, his own workshop. Lonnie knew the world's millions of refrigerators and air conditioners needed a new cooling system, one that didn't use R12, a chemical that was bad for the environment. He had an idea for using water and air pressure instead. To test his idea, water and air pressure. Wow, does that sound like foreshadowing for something? To test his idea, he made a pump and nozzle, connected them to the bathroom faucet, turned on the faucet, turned on the pump, and then whoosh! The stream that blasted across the bathroom was so powerful it created a curtain-swirling breeze. It also gave Lonnie an idea for yet another invention. This, he thought, would make a great water gun. First, he had to find or make the parts, including a pump small enough for a child to handle. Then he had to glue the parts together into a prototype, an early version with room for improvement. Finally, Lonnie tested his strange-looking squirt gun at a picnic. Does it really work? A man asked. Sure. You want to see? Lonnie worked the pump, which squeezed air into a chamber. When he pulled the trigger, the air escaped, forcing water out with a whoosh. If you've ever used a super soaker, that noise is like forever embedded in your brain. It's very satisfying. Oh, here we go. For a water battle to be a fair fight, there couldn't be just one of Lonnie's water guns. He needed help making more. So he went to a toy company, after toy company, after toy company. The word no flowed again and again, but finally one company said yes. It planned to make his water gun. Lonnie also had other projects, a water-propelled toy airplane, 2 kinds of engines, and his cooling system. He found investors to provide the money for turning his ideas into products people could buy. He made a leap of faith, quit his day job, and devoted himself to full-time inventing. That's the dream, right? Quitting your day job so you can tinker all day long. But soon each plan fell apart, even the one for the water gun. These things sometimes happen. But when they happen, one after another to the same person, now that's some pretty bad luck. Lonnie didn't have a job. He didn't have the money he'd been counting on. He and his family had to move out of their home into a little apartment. He was angry and scared. But Lonnie had dealt with challenges all his life. He knew a lot about solving problems, and he still believed in his inventions, especially the water gun. He went looking for another toy company. He really believed in his work, so. In 1989, he found a toy maker who was interested in seeing the water gun if Lonnie ever happened to be in Philadelphia. But don't make a special trip, the guy said. What would you do? Lonnie made the special trip. Of course he would. In his wife's suitcase, he carried a new prototype. He unpacked it, filled the tank with water, pumped the gun until the air pressure was good and high, and whoosh. Pretty impressive, right? Kids everywhere agreed with that wow. Lonnie's water gun, called the Super Soaker, became a smash hit. In no time, there were Super Soakers in backyards and beaches and parks and playgrounds. Each sale of a Super Soaker put a little money into Lonnie's pocket. All those hours, all those years that Lonnie spent in his workshop had paid off big time. Now he could afford to do just about anything he wanted. So what did he do? What would you do? He got a bigger workshop, which is where you'll find him today, because facing challenges, solving problems, and building things are what Lonnie Johnson loves to do. And his ideas just keep on flowing. And that is the story of Lonnie Johnson and the Super Soaker. Summer can't come soon enough, you know what I'm saying? Every time I see that whoosh sound, I'm like, gosh, I want to be outdoors. All right, on to our next one. All right, for our second story, we have the story of one of my very favorite people to watch on television, period, is gymnastics champion Simone Biles. So this book is called Flying High, The Story of Gymnastics Champion Simone Biles. And this girl can jump and flip higher in the air than anyone I've ever seen. She's absolutely incredible. Maybe you've seen her at the Olympics or at some of the other gymnastics championships that she just utterly crushes every time she shows up at them. So I thought we would read this book about her early life and how she got to, you know, the elite level competing that she remains to this day. All right, here we go. Oh, and this book is by Michelle Meadows and illustrated by Ebony Glenn. Simone is on the move. Watch her go, go, go. Climbing up, dangling down, swinging high and low. I've seen a lot of toddlers who are exactly this, so maybe any of y'all could end up being a gymnast someday. Yet 4 siblings struggle. They lack proper care. The future's uncertain and fear hangs in the air. So this family looks like it's in a little bit of crisis. The children are placed in a foster home with warm meals to eat and a yard to roam. Soon Grandpa arrives, a welcome surprise. Simone takes a trip with hope in her eyes. She's there with her grandfather on an airplane. Climbing up shoulders, bouncing off walls, flipping on the couch, tumbling through halls. Tip-top trampoline, jump towards the sky. One little girl wants to fly, fly, fly. It's like tumbling was kind of something that she had always done in her life without fear. As time carries on, the siblings must split, an impossible choice to create the right fit. Down at the courthouse, adoption complete, a family forever, a promise so sweet. So very sad, but kind of uplifting in the end. The girls get excited for an outdoor trip, but rain's coming down. Drip, drip, drip. They need a new place to switch the destination. Their brothers suggest the perfect location. What do you do when you're looking out the window longingly and it's raining out? High bars, low bars leap across the beam. Simone copies their moves and launches a dream. So, looks like she went to a gymnastics class. Isn't that fun? You can do that when it's raining out. Level by level, she's moving up fast, shooting off the vault like a rocket blast. After one special meet, Simone's family grows, now a puppy to love with a big, wet nose. Wow, a puppy really does improve everything. From vault to bars and on floor and beam, she sets her sights on the national team. She comes so close in the 14th slot, missing the team by only one spot. She looks very disappointed, but we all know what's coming. Crushed by defeat, she loses her spark. What will it take to rise from the dark? Uplifted by love, pulled into the light, Simone rediscovers the magic of flight. Back in the gym, heavy rope to climb, harder routines, and more practice time. So she hits the mat even harder after not making the team by one spot. She makes sacrifices on the path ahead, giving up high school for homeschool instead. And that's a tough thing to do, you know, because you're not around your friends, you're not around your social life, you're just kind of by yourself or at practice all the time. Determined to win, she prepares for the meet. Shake, shake, shimmy, tumble to the beat. She loops and swoops and hears the crowd roar. She whips and flips and takes a top score. Rising through the ranks, there's more work to be done. With her drive to compete, gymnastics is fun. So I guess, I mean, you do have to kind of give up your entire life to reach those levels of elite sports. And what does she do when something goes wrong? She gets back up and finishes strong. Just keep on moving. Fearless and focused, she aims for her goal, improving consistency and gaining control. A lot of working out involved. You got to be strong. Her signature move shows phenomenal flair, 2 breathtaking flips high up in the air. Simone is on a roll. Watch her go, go, go. She's the best in the world 3 years in a row. At the Olympics on Team USA, her proud family cheers, Final 5 on display. With fire inside that sets her apart, Simone captures her dream and America's heart. She definitely captured my heart when I saw her and the Fab Five at the Olympics. And that is the end of Flying High, the story of Simone Biles. All right, everyone, that's it for another story time with Mandy. We will see you again real soon. All right, bye.